Hello everyone. So today we are here to discuss the UPSC 2026 question paper, and the purpose of this video is not just to tell you the answers, rather we are going to discuss a little more detail on the trends of the question, the sources from where they are being asked. We will also look into what you can keep in mind while strategizing for the next year, and maybe we will also focus on certain concepts. In case of polity, governance and economy, these are the areas which I am going to discuss in this video. In these areas, as such, the questions are not very doubtful, and UPSC's key has also come today, and if you have seen the key, then you have just we realize here that only one of the questions, right, only one question here is for which the answer has not been given. Otherwise, for the rest of the questions, the provisional answers have been given. There may be still doubts with respect to very few questions though, but as far as economy, polity and governance area is concerned, I don't think there is any doubt with respect to the answer which has been given in the UPSC key. So let us try to discuss those questions selectively from these areas and try to learn something for the next year, those people who are preparing for next year, those who will be giving prelims next year, how you can strategize yourself. Okay, so let's start right away. We have the first question. I'm going to discuss first the areas of economy. The first question which we have taken here, there's another question related to blockchain, which I'm not covering. This will be covered in the science and technology because it is more related to technological aspect and not economics. So here question number 87, the booklet series which we are following here is A. Okay, so in the booklet series A, question number 87, an e-commerce revenue model where the seller has control over pricing but does not keep product in stock and instead transfers. Now for this, the answer is a drop shipping model. It is very clear, but you need to know about all these four different models of e-commerce revenue. So here in case of affiliate revenue model, there is an affiliation between a particular entity with the influencers. So influencers, they may help in selling of the products and they get a commission out of whatever sale happens. That is what is called as the affiliate revenue model. In transaction fee revenue model, whenever a transaction is taking place, like for example here we have Razorpay or we have PayPal. So they have one platform where certain services are being provided. So anyone who utilizes those services and does a transaction, so as many transactions someone is doing, you are going to pay the fee according to those transactions. So that's what's called as a transaction fee revenue model. And the agency revenue model is something where a third party is involved. So there is a, let's say there is a company or a platform which is selling certain services or certain products. And there's a client who subscribes to that service or product. And some additional services required by certain other experts, for which another third party gets involved. Right, so this third party is what is being referred to as agency. For example, suppose you have ordered a furniture from a particular platform, right, portal. Now that furniture requires some assembly. So assembly, you need to have some specialized service of carpenter. So there may be a third party who will be providing certain such specialized service of carpenter service, who person can come up and fix up and assemble that furniture. So this is what we call as the agency revenue model. So the answer here will be dropshipping model, because in this case dropshipping model is what is basically the firm which is running this platform. It is not keeping any stock, directly takes up the order and transfer it to another company or someone who's providing those services, and that product is directly shipped to the customer. So this is what we call as a dropshipping model. Okay. Answers are very clear and simple, like it's already clear from the UPSC key as well, and already so many answer key has already been published. So which one of the following correctly represents the three key sub indices of the financial inclusion index? Now financial inclusion index, this index was introduced by the Reserve Bank of India when it came up with its bi-monthly monetary policy statements, right, which began in the year 2021-22. From then they have started with this model, the financial inclusion index. This is a broad index which includes a number of financial aspects, which reflects to what extent there is a financial inclusion in the economy. It comprehensively involves banking and insurance, postal. We also know that it includes investments and many other aspects, how people have been involved in this entire process of financial inclusion. Now, there is no base here in the financial inclusion index as such. They just look into some previous years, how the stakeholders have performed, and based upon that, they prepare the financial inclusion index, which has three broad sub indices, which is access, usage, and quality. So that itself is the answer. Access, usage, and quality are three broad aspects inside the financial inclusion index, and these three, they have different weightage also. The weightage which has been given to them, it is around 35% for access, 45% for usage, and 20% for quality. And then within these sub indices, there are further 97 indicators which are taken into consideration to prepare this financial inclusion index, which reflects upon to what extent the financial inclusion has taken place, and especially what is very important here is the quality aspect. Quality aspect in the sense that whenever someone is subscribing for some instrument or they have taken up some services, howsoever, banking, accounting, whatever services, then have they been able to understand this entire process? Do they have proper financial literacy? Do they have the knowledge? Are their rights properly protected or not? That itself reflects whether the financial products which are there or instruments which are there, whether it is generating quality for the customers or not. Next question, number 89. This is again I'm repeating, this was booklet series A. Which one of the following best describes the key objective of India's open network and network for digital commerce ONDC initiative? Now, for this ONDC initiative, just a second. Yeah, ONDC initiative was started by the government so as to provide for an alternative, digital commerce platform in order to compete with the big giants like Walmart and Amazon, etc. So what government has done is that, like for example, we have this Bharat Taxi thing, right? So this is also a kind of this has been registered as a not-for-profit company, and in this case, they are providing a platform where many other e-commerce platforms are integrated, and they are also selling their products and services. Now, this way what happens is it is giving competition to the existing big giants, and this platform, it helps the smaller players also to integrate into the system, and it becomes far more easier for them to generate business for themselves. So let us see which one of the following best describes. So essentially the answer for this is C, to break the dominance of large e-commerce platforms by enabling interoperability across networks. Next one is question number 90. Which one of the following statement about unified payment interface UPI and the digital rupee? So what's the difference between digital rupee and this? Let's see the statements. UPI is a real-time payment system. Yes, it is a payment system, and settlement also happens in UPI, but in digital rupee it's a wallet system. So settlement doesn't happen. Already you have taken out some amount and you have kept in your wallet in digital mode, and then you can keep spending from there. So no settlement is happening, because if you transfer the amount, the digital money or currency, to someone else's account, it gets transferred from one wallet to the other. So the first statement is correct. UPI is a real-time statement, and digital rupee is a sovereign paper currency, akin to sovereign paper currency. Now, in case of UPI, statement for end users happens instantly as the money gets immediately debited or credited, but in case of digital rupee, there is no settlement as a wallet balance gets transferred. This is also correct. As I told you, UPI transactions are recorded by banks. Yes, every time a transaction has happened, it has to be recorded by the bank. In case of rupee, you do not require it to be, the statement needs to be captured through the banking statements. So the third statement is also correct. In both cases, the liability lies with the users and their respective banks. The liability lies as far as UPI with the banks, yes, but for digital rupee, that's not quite so. For digital rupee, broadly speaking, the liability will lie with the RBI. So the answer will be D for this. Now let us look at the question number 91. Now you can see that a lot of questions UPSC has asked this year which is related to e-commerce and digital platforms and all this. So the questions, they are becoming more technology oriented. The new trends which are there, more and more questions are asked from those areas. Even in economics, you see that most of those questions are from these areas. Like something which is more business oriented, commerce oriented, something which is more technology oriented. From those areas, more questions have been asked. In fact, from some specific area this year, you have too many questions coming up in an economy, like e-commerce. So the real world asset tokenization, now the concept is already known, like we have the digital tokens generated for with respect to the assets which have. So the physical assets, they get converted into digital assets, and they are these digital token, then they are kept through the blockchain. So it is in the very secure, networking platform. It is all the information is available. This helps basically in democratization of the entire process, wherein smaller people or people with a smaller net worth, they can also participate, right, in the process of investments through this. So this real world tokenization, just look at the statement, is a process of turning real world asset into digital token using blockchain technology, right? That's correct. Tokenization of real world asset is 24/7 access, no, because all availability throughout space. That means it provides you a global environment and accessibility is there. Security, accessibility, transparency. Then there is a cost and operational efficiency also in this system. So that promotes financial inclusion, because as I told you, large number of people can participate in this process. With respect to, they can have also what is called as fractional ownership, right? With respect to, in a bigger project, there may be a large number of, people who would be investing through some of these assets. So tokenization of real world assets will allow the access to high growth investment opportunities for individuals in India. All the three statements are correct. Answer is A. Question number 92 is related to bond. A green bond and a sustainability bond, there is a difference. Green bond is related to wherein we want to, we have floated the bond so as to generate some finances which are to be invested in those projects which will have positive ecological impacts, right? So they are environment friendly projects, whereas a social bond is something which will have a social impact. Sustainability bond is the one which has both the aspects. So the answer for this is sustainability bond. Obviously sustainability here is a broader, has been considered a broader aspect, not only environmental but also social sustainability. Sovereign bond, we already know that is issued by only the national government in order to generate the finances. But with respect to these bonds, it can be floated by any levels of government. Even the local government authorities, they can issue those bonds, but not the sovereign bond, which is issued only by the national government. Next is, which of the following statements regarding the M1 exchange? So what is M1 exchange? M1 exchange basically is a platform which has been licensed by RBI. It provides a trade receivable discounting, right? Trade receivable discounting platform. So what is a trade receivable discounting platform? Now let's consider there are MSMEs as one of the players. So let's say there are three players here, and MSME is there. MSME, a particular MSME, it is providing some service to some corporate. So corporates, they are buying something from the MSMEs, and when they will buy the product, then the invoice is generated. And when the moment the invoice generated, the payment doesn't happen. Payment takes a lot of time, to happen. So this is how what happens is the finances, it gets stuck. So there is a digital platform which has been created where all these transactions are happening. There, whenever the invoice has been generated by an MSME, it is basically put in this platform, which can be subscribed or discounted by the banks or the NBFCs. So the banks will finance on the basis of this invoice to the MSMEs, and later on that payment will be made by the buyer to the bank. So in the meantime, the MSMEs, they can go ahead with their financial resources, and it doesn't get stuck anywhere. Also, the banks, they are basically, when you put a particular invoice on the platform, then there will be many banks who will bid for it because the discounts are being provided, and this helps in generating some competition also among the banks and NBFCs when they are subscribing to these invoices. So this is how some discounts is also provided by, and this is how the banks will also earn some profit out of it. So M1 exchange provides collateral based loans to MSMEs? No, it is not collateral based because collateral is not required. You have the invoice on the basis of which that discounting is happening. So collateral is not required. First statement is not correct. M1 exchange facilitates discounting of invoice and bills of exchange for MSMEs. Facilitates discounting of invoices and bills of exchange for MSMEs. That's correct. M1 exchange function is a credit rating agency. No, this is not correct again. So the only statement 2 is correct over here. So the answer will be B. So only second statement is correct. 94, the crowding out effect. Crowding out effect essentially is a theory wherein what happens, the government, it increases borrowing because it has to do more expenditure and spending. So as the government has borrowed more, so the interest rates will go up because there is more competition in the market, and the private players, they will find it difficult to get the borrowings because the interest rates have increased. So what happens? The private investments will come down and the interest rates will go up. Answer will be for this B, a situation where government borrowing leads to higher interest rates, which reduces private investment. Rare earth elements, of course, two types, the heavy ones and the lower ones. Overall 17 in number, not 13 as it is reflected over here. Mostly lanthanides, which are placed in the periodic table, atomic number 57 to 71, and then we have scandium and yttrium. So overall 17 rare earth elements are there. Rare earth elements, China has 40% reserve in the world of rare earth elements, followed by Brazil, which is having 19%. And as far as mining is concerned, China of course leads somewhere around more than 65% of the share. It goes to China, and then followed by US. US has a lesser percentage in terms of reserves, but it has much higher percentage in terms of mining capacity. So US is at number 2 in terms of mining. India is also doing pretty well here, but still it is much behind US. So the first statement, modern technological innovation, of course, rare earth elements have become important because of these modern technology of AI and digital technologies, robotics, space exploration, they are using rare earth elements. So the first statement is correct. China has the highest share in mining of REEs, followed by India is not correct. It is US. Government of India launched a National Critical Mineral Mission in 2025 to establish a robust framework for self-reliance in the critical mineral sector. This is also correct. And this is wrong again. So here the answer will be A. The first and the third statement, both these statements are correct. Rest two are wrong. Now we can see that most of these questions which the UPSC is asking, they can be the source from where they ask most of the questions are all government portals, websites, because once they are picking up, they pick up the language and expression also from there. I will show you in further some more questions wherein until unless you would have read from these sources, your answer may go wrong, because you may have the compilation, you may have your material, but in that particular expression may not be used. So it is very important that though yes, that's true that most of the compilations, they are created through these government websites and all and portal, but then you have to be very careful as to pick up all the expressions which is important in a particular news item, and we don't miss out of anyone. So we require very, very smart material for preparing for UPSC now as a trend. In fact, this trend has been there for the past 4-5 years. I don't think that in the exam pattern there has been much change. Certainly the UPSC could have made the question paper more diversified, right? Instead of asking questions, too many questions from one particular area, as we have seen in economy. And there is also disturbing the balance of different areas like polity. We have very few questions as this year, and many of the questions are not conceptual as well. So there is a disadvantage for the students who probably have prepared thoroughly, nicely and comprehensively in those areas. It will bring in some disadvantage. But anyhow, no matter whatever, students cannot complain regarding these things. We can complain overall as far as what kind of paper UPSC is making, but students are no one to complain. They have to somehow prepare. After all, in the competition, only the best will, survive and they will go through. And you have to apply your mind, your common sense also to answer the questions. And now it is becoming even more important. Next one is, which of the following statements about insurance in aviation sector is correct? Now in the aviation sector, we have insurance, broadly speaking, two types. One is what we call as the hull insurance and the other one is a liability insurance. Liability insurance is related to where the aircraft is doing the damage to something else. Like for example, aircraft crashes, passenger dies. So there's a liability towards the passenger. Or an aircraft, it crashes into another aircraft, it is harming the other aircraft. So there's a liability towards the other property. Or maybe an aircraft is damaged, some building, some kind of, infrastructural facilities. So there will be liability towards that. And these things are insured under the insurance which is related to liability. Hull basically refers to the entire, the physical aircraft itself. So that body itself is considered as a hull over here, and that is insured means the aircraft itself is insured and it covers the physical aircraft including the body, the engine and other broad equipment which are there. So this statement is correct. That's what aviation hull insurance is. See, these questions are asked because there had been an Air India crash happening. There are two questions in the paper which are related to this, right? So we can easily predict, and the moment you see that there is a current affairs, important current affairs issue, you will have to dig a lot of detail, okay? Even in the current affairs compilations which the students are preparing from the coaching institute, it may not suffice. You will have to dig out by yourself and look into that there may be current affairs issue on which in detail something related to those issues the questions can be asked. So this was predictable, and think about all different aspects, like if there is an aviation accident happening, then there can be a question in economics related to it, there can be a question in science and technology, there can be a question in international conventions related to it, there can be a question related to the laws within the country related to that, there can be a questions related to geography or infrastructural aspects, resource aspects also with respect to these current affairs issues. So all the dimensions one you have to look into and prepare thoroughly, then only you will be able to get the questions properly. So the second statement is also correct. It was the Montreal Convention, wherein there was an earlier Hague and the Warsaw Convention, which was replaced by Montreal Convention of 1999, and which says that strictly liable to pay compensation to family nominee of every deceased passenger without requiring the family to prove fault. That's correct. So both the statements are correct over here. The answer is C for this. Now come to crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a solicitation of funds from multiple investors through a web-based platform. That's correct. So basically through internet, you gather a lot of funds from different sources. Large number of people get involved. That's why it's called as crowdfunding. There can be different models of crowdfunding. Crowdfunding can be reward based. That means those who are giving you the fund, they may get some reward. Maybe some preference they can get out of services or products which will be produced. Some they can be early buyers, or maybe they can easily subscribe to those products in comparison to other people. So that can be reward based. Then it can be equity based. That means they can have some kind of equity in the overall project, maybe a very small one of course. And then there can be debt model also, wherein you are taking the loan. And the fourth type of crowdfunding is basically the donation one, wherein you just freely just give the donation and forget it. So the first statement is correct. Small and medium enterprises are able to raise funds at lower cost of capital without undergoing rigorous procedures. This is also correct. So this was an easy question. In fact, many questions are there which question paper may look difficult, but when you are answering in the exam hall and you just look at the statements and the options, you can easily get some of the questions correct. So here the answer for this is, of course, C. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Okay, now this one again, this require you to have a lot of previous knowledge as well of the committees and all. So the previous committees, in this case the R.N. Malhotra committee, organization under it was formed. No, IRDA was a product of the recommendation of the committee. It was not created under this organization, so this is not correct. The second one is L.C. Gupta committee established by SEBI for derivative trading is correct. Urjit Patel committee established by RBI, but it was not for the housing sector as mentioned here. It was for the monetary policy, right? And wherein the concept of inflation targeting was introduced. So this is also wrong. And the Malegaon committee on microfinance sector by RBI is correct. So here the answer will be D. 2 and 4. 2 and 4 are correctly matched. First and third are wrong. But when we are studying economics, right, or Indian economy, let's say, in every area, the previous developments chronology we should know. This is how, if any committees and all have been established in those particular areas, then you need to remember them. I think this question, someone who has prepared properly all the areas of Indian economy, they can answer this question. It's not that difficult. Because when we are studying a particular chapter or a particular, let's say, issue, then we need, let's say you are studying NBFC. So if you are studying NBFC, the concept of NBFC, then also the chronology and how NBFCs have come in India, right? How the entire thing has evolved. And then, of course, what are the issues in the recent times related to that. So just try to see through the question paper, how you need to now prepare yourself. Right, and I'm repeating this again, that the trend has not changed much. These similar kinds of questions have been asked in the past 7 years, right? So the trend has not changed. Yes, maybe some of the questions may seem to be vague and all, but I think not in the area of economy. It's relatively not that difficult. I think in history and some other areas there were difficult questions, or not the questions, they went a little vague as well, but not certainly in polity and economy. Consider the following statements about the NBFC. So non-banking financial companies. These are, if you just compare with banks, so they are performing almost all the functions except, many of the functions of bank, apart from the specific banking function, which of course involves the accepting demand deposits. So NBFCs that don't accept demand deposits. So the first statement, NBFC cannot accept demand deposits, that statement is correct. All NBFCs operating in India have to be registered with the RBI. Now this statement, there may be some confusion when you read it. First and foremost, NBFC is a registered company, right, under the Companies Act. So registration is with the registrar of companies. But there may be some registration happening with RBI as well. So the second statement may confuse you, but you will not get any option. Okay, from the option it will be clear. The third one, NBFC form part of payment and settlement system and can issue check drawn on itself. This is not correct. This will be done only by the banks. So the third statement is not correct. Deposit insurance facility of deposit insurance and credit guarantee corporation is not available to the depositors of deposit taking NBFC is correct. This statement is correct. So the answer here is 1 and 4 are correct for sure. 1 and 4 are correct. And look at the 4 option. 1 and 4 are correct. This we know. And if you are confused about 2, then there's no option which gives you 1, 2 and 4. So the answer will be A. That means the second statement you should consider as not correct. Now this kind of question, NBFC, when they are asking you a question, then you see that in the statements various dimensions are asked, right? You need to prepare every important issues in full detail. Now many times it happens that we do not have in your material all the details may not be given. These kind of questions can better be prepared from the RBI portals. On the RBI portal, there are a lot of information given with respect to all the terminologies, all the aspects, which are related to Indian economy. And you will, once if you have gone through them, or if your notes have been compiled from there, then you can easily get all the statements. So I'm just telling you the sources, though it's very difficult for you to, go through all these scattered sources. But at least you should have the awareness as to from where the questions they are being asked. So in case if there is something in the current affairs, it's important in current affairs, then you know that, okay, if I have to dig on this information, then from which source I have to go and dig the information. Multi-dimensional poverty index. This at the global level, it is developed by United Nations Development Program, and there's an Oxford Human Development Initiative. Both together comes up. They have the 4 broad areas which they consider. One is, of course, education, health, and standard of living. You know this very well. And then among these 3 broad aspects, they have 10 indicators at the global level. But when in India, the same thing is, prepared by the Niti Aayog, then they have added to those 10 indicators 2 more indicators. And those 2 indicators are maternal health and bank account. So maternal health and bank account are common indicators in MPI of Niti Aayog, and MPI of UNDP is not correct because it is not there in UNDP, it is only there in case of Niti Aayog. MPI calculated by Niti Aayog has a total of 12 indicators, correct? And definitely MPI is calculated using a Kyle-Foster methodology. That's a factual aspect. So the answer for this question will be A. Okay, now come to the questions on polity. As far as polity is concerned, here some of the questions were asked from public administration, but the questions were very easy. Like anyone could have answered it. So that's how, questions like this, it doesn't make sense because it is not giving edge to the students who have actually worked hard. Because someone who will straight away walk into and give the examination without any preparation, he also can get this question correct, right? So this, everyone knows that it is about fixing accountability, because as a private service provider responsible for vaccine distribution is compromising with quality, and it needs to be the complaint has to be filed. The vigilance authority has to be reported. So of course, it's a question of accountability. Now, most of these terms which have come, delegation is when we are delegating or giving the function to the lower authority. So delegation of authority we say that authority which is delegated from the higher level to the lower level. Esprit de corps is a team spirit, is the unity in the organization, is that the entire workforce or the personnel in the organization, they are working in unison and unity, and they are committed towards the objective of the organization. So this is one of the features of bureaucracy as well. And esprit de corps, equity and delegation are from amongst the 14 principles of management given by Henry Fayol also. Esprit de corps specifically is mentioned over there, and many a times even for bureaucracy also we use one of the features as esprit de corps. Okay. Accountability as such is not mentioned in the principles of management of Fayol. He talks about authority and responsibility. Of course, the answer but is accountability. In fact, there is a principle of accountability given by other thinkers as well. So this question, now one thing is, a new trend has come up in UPSC, that UPSC is going to ask questions on basic concepts of governance and administration as well, right? So we need to prepare the basic concepts of governance while we prepare for governance. Though in our classes on governance, we do focus upon some of the basic concepts, even in polity as well. But certainly we do not focus in an elaborate way. So maybe 1 or 2 extra sessions are required for this purpose itself, wherein we cover something related to all the concepts in public administration. At least the organizational concept should be clear. Though these organizational concepts, they do come in the discussion in polity and governance as well. Next one is again a type of a case study questions. This also you can easily answer. It is about a conflict of interest now between tribal community, and there's a waste management project which has to come, and the land has to be allocated. So the conflict has to be resolved, and how the conflict will be resolved, If you read this, the second statement, the government should move ahead with the project without delay to address urban health concern which outweighs the sentiment of small group. I mean, even though the group is small, but it has its stakes, it has its own interest. So you cannot just go ahead and bulldoze a particular group or interest altogether. So obviously the second statement was not correct. Rest three of them are correct. It was far very easy question. Next one is, I mean, this is a commonsensical thing, so anyone could just think and answer this, because this is an extreme step which has been taken here. Okay, in this case, okay, this is related to the project wherein a particular officer, she knows that the project which is going to be, granted is to be given to a number of people who have bid for it, file their bid, in which there is a particular company or a contractor who has a poor work record, right? Poor workmanship and allegations of corruption. Now, but it is not legally proven. So because it is not legally proven, then there is some kind of suspicion. So what the officer is trying to do here, his department, he probably wants to disclose that information because it is available to that person. Now the head of the department is asking her not to disclose. So obviously what she can do here is she has to balance both the aspects. That means he needs to bring it to the notice of the people who are granting these projects. They should also have some idea, some information about this person or this company. And at the same time, she should not go outrightly not to listen to the head of the department and disclose all the information in public. So in this case, the answer is only third one. This one seems to be correct. What she can propose is a limited disclosure to an oversight committee while keeping the information confidential from the public for the time being. So if these are the kind of questions are asked, I think that that's not very fair with respect to those students who have seriously prepared for the exam, because these questions can be answered by anyone. Or either UPSC should have created some better questions where you have to apply mind on the basis of whatever you have learned in polity or governance or maybe in other areas, even from your optional. I mean, there has to be some advantage which students should get in terms of their preparation. This is like you just take away all those advantages from those students. That's not very fair. Okay, question number 54. I mean, this everyone knows. Article 13, you have read it in detail. That's why we always say that please go through the articles from PM Bakshi, right? The original text. This time again in the polity question, there are 2-3 questions you will get correct only if you have read PM Bakshi or the Bare Act. I mean, the original text of the constitution properly, then only you will be able to answer those questions. But anyhow, this was not that difficult. It could easily be, because custom and usage is also mentioned there, right? In the territory of India, the force of law, that's also part of 13. So the answer for this will be D. The view of only Y is correct. Okay, question number 55. Now see, the article 395 is generally, I do discuss that in the class, which clearly says that, the Indian Independence Act and the Government of India Act 1935, it gets repealed. Just below 395, we have 394 and 393. So this is what I keep telling, that please, no matter whatever we are covering in the class, but do read the articles at least and figure out, okay, which one you from where you can learn something which could be asked in the form of the question. So if you have gone through that last section of the constitution, then you would have got straight this question correct, because all the 3 statements, all these 3 articles are mentioned over there, article 393, 394 and 395. So here all the statements are wrong. Okay, there is no correct statement. Next one is a Person of Disabilities Act. Okay, so you see in the trend, one more thing is there are certain questions on weaker section always there in the exam. Every year they will have something related to tribals or people with disability. Welfare oriented questions are there. Welfare is one area we need to prepare properly, because there are 2-3 questions in prelims, right? One particular area you prepare, you get 2-3 questions correct. That's a lot. So the first statement is not correct because the law came in 2016. Otherwise, everything else was correct. So Gamya Bharat Abhiyan was launched in 2016. And its purpose, obviously, to make that mobility and transits easier for them, accessibility easier for them. Of course, 3 different areas: the environment in which they are working. So for the infrastructural facility, the transport system and the information communication technology. So this statement is correct. The third statement is the National Divyang Finance Development Corporation. Finance Development Corporation is an agency which is providing you again those credit and subsidy and training and skill development so that you can start some enterprise, some kind of business, maybe small business. So there are beneficiaries. So National Finance Development Corporations are there with respect to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, the backward classes and the Safai Karmacharis, and now we also have it for the Divyangs as well. So this will be run by that particular ministry which is responsible for this particular beneficiary group or this particular vulnerable section. And the ministry which looks after the disabilities or persons with disabilities is the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So they should come under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. This is again common sense. And please remember, while you study and prepare, please look into these aspects properly, right? Because by common sense you can answer. How can it be Ministry of Corporate Affairs? That purpose of Ministry of Corporate Affairs is not to directly spend on that particular vulnerable section, right? When that vulnerable section is being addressed by some other ministry, so no spending will be done by it. So it will obviously come under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. The answer will be B, 2 only. Okay, the question on scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, first statement is obviously not correct because this is related to the 6th schedule, not 5th. Some tribes in India are entitled to exemption from paying income tax on certain incomes. Okay, now there may be a possibility that you don't know this fact. This is obviously clearly mentioned in the Income Tax Act also, IT Act of 61. It is clearly mentioned that some tribes, some notified tribes of certain areas, they will be exempted. But in general, you know this fact that a particular law of the center or of the state, it may not apply or apply with modifications in the 5th schedule and the 6th schedule on the tribal areas. So if that is the case, Income Tax Act can also be modified or applied with it. So there's always a possibility. So with keeping that logic in mind, you will definitely consider this statement to be correct. Constitution of India provides reservation of seats of panchayats of women belonging to SC/ST. There is a particular further within the vertical, reservation. There's horizontal reservation. So obviously within those categories also reservation is there. The answer, there are 2 correct statements here. Third statement and the second. 2 and 3 is correct, and it includes 2 statement 2. So A is the answer for 57. Question number 58 is the easiest question you can get in polity. The start question is the one which is answered orally. Unstart is answered in written. First statement is wrong. Second is also wrong. And supplementary questions can be asked with respect to start questions. Okay. So no supplementary question can be asked on an unstart question. That's correct. So the answer here, there's only one correct statement, that is third. Okay. Question number 59. Consider the statements in relation to Parliamentary Committee on Welfare of Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe. Now you see this question also, you cannot remember all parliamentary committees in detail one after the other. And this is how I address in one framework as to how you can develop an understanding of about the nitty-gritties of parliamentary committees. One thing is clear, if there is a joint committee, then obviously the members will be in proportion of Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha. So Lok Sabha members will be more than the Raj Sabha, right? So this statement, 20 members are elected by the Raj Sabha and 10 members by the Lok Sabha, is wrong because the ratio cannot be such. Whenever there is a joint committee, then because more members will be from the Lok Sabha, it is always the speaker who will be appointing the chairman. So this will also be wrong. These are all conceptual. You don't have to remember the fact of this particular committee. You can easily answer it through the logic. Okay. So both the statement, this statement is wrong and this statement is also wrong. Both the statements are wrong. No minister except union minister. Now you can have doubt about this. Members are elected for a fixed term of 2 years from the date. Now, all the parliamentary committees we have studied, we know that mostly they either have a tenure of 1 year or the tenure is not fixed. That is the general trend. So here also it cannot be 2 years. Either it will be 1 year or it will not be fixed, and it is a specific, very specific committee. So it will be 1 year. So obviously, but from this itself you could have answered. You see, let's see the answer. There is no correct statement. So if we say there are 4 correct statements, 2 are already wrong, so A cannot be the answer. Only on the basis of these 2 you can answer the question. There are 4 correct statements, not correct because they are 2 are wrong. There is only 1 correct statement. That statement is statement 2. Statement 2 they are saying is correct. This cannot be the answer because statement 2 is wrong. There are 2 correct statements that include statement 1 they are saying is correct. This is wrong. So this also cannot be the. So even without knowing this or without knowing this, you could have easily answered the question. But anyhow, ministers generally are not, with certain exceptions, ministers generally are not included in the parliamentary committees. And yes, of course, the question on the first first information report, a lot of people say that this is confusing or maybe not properly asked. Certainly, there may be a little ambiguity, but still it is, you can easily answer this question. I'll tell you why. A zero FIR is obviously when you are registering an FIR and you go into a jurisdiction of a police station, where that crime is not falling into their jurisdiction. So you have to basically file the FIR in the appropriate jurisdiction. That was the case earlier. Now you can file an FIR even in a police station which doesn't fall, whose jurisdiction is not coming in the area of committing where the crime has been committed. So you can file the FIR there. This is called a zero FIR, and it is their onus, their responsibility that they will transfer it to the respective jurisdiction. So a zero FIR can be lodged. If we look into this particular section of the BNSS, then zero FIR can be lodged at a police station even though the place of commission of a cognizable. Here both the options have been given. It is only for cognizable, not for non-cognizable offence. So the statement is wrong. Look at the third statement. Under zero FIR, it is obligatory for the informant to furnish information electronically. No, it is not obligatory. They have the option of giving orally also. So this statement is also wrong. Now going by the answer, it is now, if this is wrong and this is wrong, then obviously answer will be D. But let us look at this. The officer in charge of the police station where a zero FIR has been lodged. The officer in charge of the police station where a zero FIR has been lodged with the permission of competent authority initiate a preliminary inquiry. This is a little vague statement because in the that particular section, it is not very clearly written as to which particular officer is going to do the preliminary inquiry. But preliminary inquiry can happen. That is there. Preliminary inquiry, that option is given over there. So in this case, the answer will be D. Only the second statement is, this one you will consider as correct because one is wrong and 3 is wrong. You don't have any other option left with you. Okay. So answer will be D. And in this question, this is a straight away question. Now here the ministry is not correct. Economic Intelligence Bureau is the Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance. SFIO, one it is saying corporate fraud, and obviously it will be Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Now last one is correct. Now here you get confused with respect to function. You see that specifically they are saying CBI. What is the function? To preserve values in public life and ensure the health of the national economy. Now you may get confused because you might just not remember as to what all are the stated objectives of CBI. This is where the expressions become very, very important. That's why I'm telling you that it is only in the government websites and their material, the expressions which they have used, you have to follow that. Exactly that has to be followed. Otherwise, your answer may go wrong. And it's very clearly, even if you visit the website, it is very clearly mentioned on that home page itself where they mention about what is the purpose of CBI. This is the language which has been used there. So the answer will be A, 1. Only one of the things is correctly matched. And then we have this Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan. The period is not correct, started in 2022. 2018 to 21 was the earlier one and the revamped one was from 22 to 26. Here again you see the key objective of revamped RDS is develop governance capabilities. That's we understand, that's the basic program and its concept of the Panchayati Raj institution to deliver on the sustainable development goal. To deliver on the sustainable development goals. You have to be mindful when you are actually studying the details of these projects as to what all things you have to remember. Otherwise, your answers will go wrong. The share of central funding for revamped RGSA is 100%. That's not correct. It's 60 is to 40%. And for hilly and northeastern states, it is 90 is to 10. So answer is B. Only the second statement is correct. First and third is wrong. So these are the questions which we have discussed. I hope you got a little idea about from where the questions are being asked and what you have to, keep in your mind when you are preparing for your next prelims, especially those who are clearing the prelims well and good. Those who are not clearing the prelims need to prepare for next year. Keep these things in mind, and we will come up with further other videos wherein we will look into other areas of the paper. Thank you so much.